It's my pleasure to welcome Kari Seitz, Marlene Duffy, and Veronica Perez. All right, so let me do a little introduction of each of them before we get started. We were joking earlier that by the time I'm done with the introduction, if I included everything in their background, we'd have to end the evening. So I'll try and make it quick. First of all, immediately to my left, of course, is Kari Seitz, who's been a referee since 1995 on the FIFA list. 1985. Yep, got it. Didn't want to shorten your career there, sorry. A FIFA referee since 1999. Is without a doubt the most decorated referee in the United States in terms of FIFA and World Championships. She participated in the Women's World Cup in 1999, the Under-19 World Championship in 2002, the Women's World Cup in 2003, the Olympics in 2004, the Women's World Cup in China, in 2007, the Olympic Games in 2008, the Women's World Cup in Germany in 2011. Are you ever at work? And okay, maybe I'm too close to your mic there. And then of course the Olympics in Great Britain in 2012. Numerous CONCACAF and other international events, especially many times to the Algarve Cup and other CONCACAF championships. Is also a recipient of the President's Award with U.S. Soccer. Refereed in the WPS, and as a profession, she's an advertising executive and is a managing director for an advertising agency in San Francisco and Seattle. So let's give Kari a round of applause. I'll switch the order. Next is Veronica Perez, who apparently also has her fan club here. That's good. Referee since 1996, a FIFA referee since 2008. She also has had a great career refereeing, of course, in the Olympics, in the World Cup in Germany, and certainly in the World Cup, including the 4 matches, including the 3rd and 4th place match between Sweden and France. And I think we may have a clip from that at some point tonight. She's also officiated many matches. Kari, Veronica, and Marlene have refereed in the WPS as well as in collegiate games. And Veronica has been to the Division 1 and 2 championships. And as she says, in many countries as well, more than 12 countries since she started officiating. She lives in Sacramento and works for the state of California. Let's give Veronica a round of applause. And thankfully, we were able to get the whole crew here. Marlene came up from Southern California. She's been a referee since 1991, a FIFA assistant referee since 2008 as well. Has officiated in 4 FIFA tournaments, World Cup, an Under-20 World Cup, and now 2 Olympics, both Beijing and Great Britain. And has been involved in many other events as well, including international events, CONCACAF events, the Algarve Cup, the World Military Games in the Netherlands, the WPS, and also has refereed NC2A games. She's a geologist by trade. So let's give her a round of applause. Okay, so that's probably as much as you want to hear from me. Let's hear from them. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, so let me ask each of you just to talk a little bit about, and start with Kari and just go across. What got you into refereeing in the first place? What and has kept you in it all these years?
Well, some of you have heard my story before, and frankly, I was forced. I was forced to be a referee. I was a player on a team, the first all-girls team. It was a really big deal at the time, so this was a couple years ago. I'm hearing feedback.
Can you guys hear all right? Can you hear out there all right?
Okay. And our coach, who was one of those coaches who learned soccer by reading the rules and never probably seen it before, I don't think he understood offside, so he said we didn't know what it was. And so he forced us all to take the referee class. Now, I thought it was a terrible idea at first, and probably within, I would say less than 6 months, everybody but myself had quit refereeing, which I think is fairly common. And the reason I stayed in it was because there just happened to be a gentleman who would come by the fields and provide me some advice and some encouragement, and just that little nugget of support kept me going back. The 20 bucks didn't hurt, but that kind of support has really been the kind of thing that's helped me throughout my entire career. Somebody being at the right place at the right time and saying, look, that might have been a challenging game, but we're glad you're here. Thank you. Here's some ideas on how you can improve. And that encouragement really went a long way. And so, needless to say, 27 years later, I'm still doing it.
Great. Go ahead.
For me, it was also somewhat similar in the sense that it was I used to play in Woodland, and so I had a coach who he was an assigner, and he kind of got me involved, and I would constantly bump into him because Woodland's a small town. And one day I just ran out of excuses why I could not come out and referee. And so I was like, okay, let's try this out. And it started, I was in high school, and so my dad was very strict, and it was the only way I was able to get out of the house and make my own money. And so it actually worked out. And so it started for the love of money and eventually evolved into something bigger.
So you're okay to go out of the house apparently now.
Yeah.
It took a while, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask permission to go do a game. Marlene, how about you?
Well, I started because my father got mad so often at our games, watching the referees, that he would yell and scream. So he took the class, and then the next year he's like, I need an assistant to come along with me. So he said, you can make some money, because of course that's the way you get a 12-year-old to come out and take a class. So I went and took the class. I followed him around, or he dragged me around. We differ on the opinion of which of those two it was. But we did it in a kind of a cool way, because my brother joined a couple years later, and so we would go out as a crew, and we would get to hang out as a family, even though my sister and my mother never came out and did the soccer, as they called it. But I kind of kept going and through high school just because of that, just because we were doing it as a family. It's just what we did. Didn't really think about it. And then I moved out and went to college, and then it was, well, you won't be able to keep this up. And I don't respond well to people telling me I can't do something, so I just kind of got a little stubborn and kept going at it, and now I actually find that I do enjoy it, so I keep going back for enjoyment, not just stubbornness or because my family makes me do it.
Great. We took the questions for those of you who signed up online to say you were here and put a question in. We took those questions and sort of organized them, and we'll try and ask them throughout the night. If somehow your question gets dropped, there will be a chance a little later to ask some as well. But one of the questions that was asked, and I think this one is probably good for each of you again, and let's start with you, Marlene, on this one. What do you do to stay fit? Do you have a trainer? Do you run every week? I thought it was interesting that someone said you run every week, not every day. But yeah. But what do you do? What's your routine, and how do you keep yourself fit?
Well, we get a program that we have a trainer from FIFA who he posts it on a website. We download it every month, and I follow that. So on Tuesdays we do high intensity intervals. Wednesdays is off. Thursday is speed endurance or extended speed, so more like a game sort of situation. Saturday is just pure speed, and then Sunday they plan on you doing a game, with Monday being a recovery. But I do have a trainer that helps me with all of the core strength and the other things that I need to be a little bit more speedy down the line.
Okay, anything to add, Veronica?
So I do the same thing as Marlene, but then I do work with the 2 additional people. I have a strength and conditioning coach that I meet with at the gym, so we do different things for an hour. And so I meet with her either once or twice a week, just depending on where I'm at in terms of preparing for a tournament. Then I also have a sprint coach, and so I'll meet with him on different days, and sometimes I do doubles, and he's just purely speed. So it's knowing what my weaknesses were and something that I wanted to become strengths, and that is something that has been working for me. And now that we're, I would say, kind of the off season in the sense that we're not preparing for an Olympics or preparing for a world tournament, but we are in the middle of college now. I'm trying to do a little bit of cross training, so I do a little bit of cycling as well for recovery.
Okay, and since both of you are assistant referees, is there anything unique about that training program as compared to what the referees might do?
There are a number of differences in the sense that our sprints are usually shorter because it's very similar to what we have to do in the soccer game. So we try to simulate what we do and practice for game situations, and we have a lot of places where the referee would either backpedal or maybe jog. Sometimes we sidestep because it's nice to incorporate sidestep into our training because that's what we do in the game.
Okay, good. How about you, Kari?
Well, I follow the same training days because we receive the same information from the coaches, but it is very specific, referee versus assistant referee. And if you do both, obviously you can interchange them. We use a field generally. There is some track work, but most of it's on the field. So we're trying to simulate what it's like to referee. You get your heart rate up, you get your heart rate down. You get your heart rate up, you get your heart rate down, right? So we're not going for 5-mile jogs. A lot of people go out and jog and think that's adequate. And yes, it gives you a base level of fitness, but it doesn't give you game fitness. Right? There's speed endurance, there's running backwards, there's sideways, there's all the agility. I actually have a thing of cones. I take a backpack, I jog to the track, I have those items with me. One of the training elements is a heart rate monitor. It's critical. Our sessions actually give us ranges that we're supposed to work out in, and that can be good for anyone in this room. Right? We're all at different fitness levels and different ages, but once you figure out what your max is, you can work back to that, and actually our training becomes much more efficient and effective than just going out for a jog. And so it's really important that the higher up you go, the fitness becomes more and more critical to what you do, and then you tailor it for specifically the kind of officiating that we're doing.
Okay, good. How about, and let's start with you on this, Kari. We talked a little bit about how you got into refereeing, but what's kept you going? How did you advance, to the level that you're at? Did you have a mentor? Those were some of the questions that people were asking. What got you prepared to continue to move up and got you to the highest levels?
For me, it was, I started like these guys very young, so it was a slow process. This is not something that you can learn overnight. It's experience. You can't go in the backyard and just blow your whistle and practice, right? People go and they kick the ball or they juggle. We can't really do that. You have to do games. So like I said, I've been a referee for 27 years. The first 14 were getting my sea legs, right? So it took, I think, 7 or 8 years before I even knew I could upgrade. I hadn't even heard about it. And then once that pattern started, then I moved up quickly. Now I started refereeing, for example, I was always doing youth matches, but then in high school I started doing amateur men's matches. And really starting to get those challenges and pushing myself. Not always was I prepared, but I had people who were helping me, and it's really important that we have a lot of really great people in Cal North who want to see people grow, who want to see people like Veronica, myself, and Marlene to get to those kinds of places. And you have to figure out who those people are. They're often pretty easy to figure out because they're often offering you advice or help. And I haven't had one mentor, but it's several people. When I came to Cal North, many of you know probably Mr. Alvarez. Mr. Fernando Alvarez, who lives in San Francisco. He was an important mentor for me when I came to California, and wouldn't have been a FIFA referee without him. He's the one who put my name forward to U.S. Soccer, and you have to have somebody looking out for you. It's a lot of what you do on the field, and then there's some things that happen when people say, I really trust this person, I really think they are working hard, let's think about possibly giving them this opportunity. So it's, I've had many people who have really helped me throughout my career, not just one person, and I would suggest that others, you know, seek advice, look for people. This state has a lot of real quality people who care about referees, and we have some who have really excelled too, FIFAs and nationals, who really care about making this program better.
How about you, Veronica?
Kari is really talking about mentoring, and I think it's such an important thing for referees, wherever our career is. And as a referee, things are not always going to be perfect. We're going to go through these ups, we're going to go through these downs along the way as we try to make it to the top. And along the way, there's always somebody that's willing to help. And I've been very fortunate from the beginning that I've had a number of people help me. And I think the person that was the most instrumental when I was breaking into professional games was Farhad Mansourian. So Tim has now he is creating something very similar in terms of academies where we incorporate fitness, we incorporate leadership, we incorporate instruction. And so that's something that he did for national referees and national referee wannabes, and I was a wannabe at the time. And so it's nice to have people along the way that can just kind of help you and guide you. And this is one of those things as a referee, you can't go in it alone and think that that we can completely be independent and we're going to prosper, because it doesn't work that way. It's nice when we have a lot of people to reach out to, and just there's so many people with nuggets of information, and they can always help in one way or another, whether it's helping you be better on the field, be better off the field, learning how to be professional, because there's so many different aspects about refereeing that actually help us in our career.
Okay, so how are things in Cal South that way, Marlene?
I'm a little afraid of saying that they're more awesome than Cal North, but...
We'll let you slide this time.
Well, I think we have a similar situation where we've got some great people who are higher up. They've got lots of experience. I don't know if you guys knew who Harros, and I can never pronounce his last name was, but Harros was. He was kind of like our dad a little bit down there, and he took us under his wing, and he was very much like a dad in the sense that if you screwed up, he let you know about it, and he took you aside, but it was always with love and always because he wanted you to succeed. And then at the same time, besides just the mentors, I had some people who were just ahead of me, maybe about 4 years ahead of me in their careers. And I could turn to them and complain. Something bad would go down, and I would just call, complain, say all these things to get it all off my chest. They'd say, okay, now let's think about what we can take away from it. But they wouldn't say it that way. They would just slowly lead me to where I needed to go. But they've been very helpful and instrumental in allowing me to vent when I need to and stay sane and congratulate me when I do well and share in the success. So you need not just the people above, but also the people that are your peers.
Okay, good. There were some other interesting questions here that I'll probably go by. There was one about were you always good at foul recognition? And I'm not sure what you expected the answer to be, but I think it would have to be yes from everyone up here, right? What do you mean? So maybe we'll move on from that one. But we are here to talk about the Olympic experience, and obviously it's a unique and interesting one, and not one that very many referees get to experience. So Veronica, do you want to start? What is the Olympic experience like, and talk a little bit about some moments that were enjoyable there.
Well, I think I'm going to steal Kari's words, because I really like the way she described what's special about the Olympics, and it's a celebration of sports. And that's something that everyone in the U.S. really can understand, because here in the U.S. we all know this, the Olympics is a bigger deal than the World Cup. So all of our friends, our coworkers, all the people that are not into soccer, you know, all those people can really join in and really be excited for us, and that really adds to the enthusiasm of preparing for a big event. So that's what's amazing about the Olympics. It's going out there, and when we go to the Olympics, we really feel like we're wearing our national flag around our backs, like we have U.S. soccer on our back. So there's something about that, because we feel like, yes, we're there as referees, but we also really want to do well, not just for ourselves as a team, but we really want to do well for all of you guys here and everybody here in the U.S. And so that makes us really proud to be, just know that we can represent. And for me, the best experience, the most memorable, had to be the quarterfinal game between Sweden and France. So it was a repeat, but we went into this game knowing that it was probably going to be our very last game, because we have an awesome team, the USA national team, and Canada was doing really good, and so we knew the chances would be pretty slim that we would continue in the tournament. So we went in knowing that we were going to give it 100%. We were going to kick ass. I guess I should watch my language. There's kids in the group. Yeah, so.
Jason will edit that out.
Yeah. So we went in knowing that we were going to give it our all and let everybody know that we were going to show them that we were on top of this game. So it was an amazing experience, and I think because we went in knowing that it would probably be our last moment, we savored the moment even more. And,
Yep, good. Okay, Marlene, how about you?
Well, I'm sorry, Kari, but when we got to go to the opening ceremonies, poor Kari didn't get to go, but when they light the Olympic rings, and so, I don't know if you guys watched on TV, but there's this cool moment when they had this circle of fire, and suddenly you're just like, this isn't just a normal tournament. Because we start before the actual Olympics starts. So you've got, before that starts, it's kind of like a normal soccer tournament. But then you're there with everybody, and all these athletes start walking in, but you got suddenly the rings, and that's just a symbol I think everybody knows from when they're a little kid, and just, I got a little bit goosebumpy, but it's hard to describe unless you can. I wish you guys could all go to see the opening ceremonies. It's great. Sorry.
Okay. Kari?
I'm going to talk about the Olympics in general. This was a very challenging Olympics for me, because I was on the road every day and working nonstop and a lot of travel. But the Olympics overall, like many of you probably dreamed about going to the Olympics, watching it on TV, hearing that anthem, seeing the athletes represent your country, and it was always a dream. And I remember, it's kind of a funny story, but thinking I could only go if something horrible happened to me. So if you watch NBC, somebody lost a leg, they got in a terrible car accident, right? And then they learned to walk again, and I thought, gosh, what is going to happen to me? I'm going to have to go through something very traumatic to make this happen. And I would sort of imagine these scenarios. I'm like, would I be willing to give this up in order to go to the Olympics? This is how much thought I put into it as a kid. So I actually backtracked. This is a little personal, but I was adopted, and I was like, that's got to be it. Even though it was a great experience, I'm like, that's going to count, I know. So I remember the first Olympics I was able to go to was in Greece. And it was obviously very special to them because it was the homecoming of the Olympic Games. And I got to go to that opening ceremonies, and when they started the music and they had this guy, a drummer, walk out into the water, and he was playing to the screen which was showing someone at the original site of the Olympics. Holy crap, I just started crying. I was just so emotional, and I thought, is this really happening? Am I really here? And I mean, each time you just get an opportunity to go to something that here your whole life you were hoping you could get a chance to do. It was really, really special. And whether you get to go as an athlete or you go as a tourist, it is something that I recommend every person try to do in their lifetime because of it. It's so special.
So I know all of you did a lot of preparation, both physical and otherwise, to get ready for the Olympics, and you talked a little bit about what you need to do daily and weekly anyway. But talk a little bit about, and maybe Marlene, you could start this one. When do you have to arrive for a tournament like this? What do you do? How do you, as a whole referee team, this team and the broader referee group, get ready for the games? And what's it like there preparing?
A lot of things in one question, so I'll address part of it. But one of the first things we have to do is pass a fitness test. So fortunately this time they allowed it to be held in your home country. So we all flew to Chicago in May, was that? But something like that. June, and took the fitness test together, which this is a great moment. And I don't know if you guys know Margaret Domke, who is our 4th member of the FIFA panel. She was going to the Under-20 World Cup. And so she came and ran with us as well, so she could qualify to go there. And when we finished, we all ran the test together, even though we had to run a different test. We got to cross the finish line with our hands all together, celebration moment, because now we're going. And then, we had a couple games beforehand. We got a conference call and discussed the step-by-step little things in the game that we wanted to talk about and do better. How did we do this? What could we have done here better? All these things. And then we flew in, and you get there several days before your first game, at least 3 or 4 days before your first game. And you start fitness training, you start doing videos, discussions, and debriefs of previous tournaments, and getting everybody together and prepared, and so we're all in the same mindset. But if you guys want to talk about one of those other questions.
If you think about a typical day.
Yeah, talk about, so to pick a non-game day, what would you do then? And then we'll take a game day as well.
Really varies. We have a number of different kind of typical days. In general, we're up between 7 a.m. to maybe about 8 o'clock. And then we always have breakfast together. So we kind of breakfast together, whatever time works for us, because we always would take off about 8:30 in the morning. We'd be in the hotel for departure, and then we'd go to the training field. So here in London, it was kind of a strange situation in the sense that traffic was really, really bad. The hotel, I want to say it was only either 5 to 8 miles away, but it took about 45 minutes minimum to get there. And that was just going to the field. On the way back, it was a whole different story. It could have been an hour to an hour and a half, because by the time we returned, it was now in the middle of rush hour for the lunch. So we'd do our training session. So we'd have a number of different things incorporated into fitness. So we'd warm up together as a group. And then we would have a number of drills. So we would work on offside decisions. We'd work on foul, no foul. We'd work on teamwork between the 3 of us. So we did a number of different situations. We'd have penalty kick, no penalty kick, goal, no goal. So we're constantly they know what's going to be maybe about a week or several days before we have our next game. So they have to continue to mentally prepare us. So that's what we do. And then along the way, they can kind of help us fine-tune little things in terms of either mechanics or walk through some decisions. So that really helps us just stay mentally sharp, because we're not refereeing any other games except for that. And so we would do that, finish the session, go back to the hotel. So that would bring us back to maybe about noonish. And then it would really depend. If it was a day where there were a number of Olympic Games going on and we weren't working, we would sit in the hotel. Well, we'd have lunch, and then we'd sit in the hotel the entire day trying to watch as many games on TV. I mean, one day, Marlene and I, because Kari was traveling as a 4th official, we watched about 4 to 6 games in 1 hour. So
2 TVs going at the same time, trying to go back.
Yeah, because we're trying to keep up with what's happening in all the games. So number 1, we're supporting our colleagues. Number 2, we have to be watching the teams, because especially knowing which group the USA wasn't in. So we knew we had 1 of 3 that we were definitely going to be working. So we were trying to stay aware of team strategies, tactics, a number of different things. Because eventually, once everybody returned back to the hotel, because we had 6 different venues, by the time they returned, we wanted to be aware of the things that were just one step ahead of what FIFA could probably discuss for some of the highlights, whether bad or good. And so we would do something like that. If it's a day where there weren't any games, we may spend the rest of the evening in meetings. We'd either have a number of mental preparation sessions, or we would have debriefings. And the debriefings, like we mentioned, they're always in a group session, and it's to talk about the good and the bad, because there's so many things we can always learn from each other. And the number 1 thing that they'd always say is, we're not here to criticize the referee, we're just here to see this image and see what we can learn as a group.
Do you want to say a little bit more about Yeah, the assessment process, and then let's talk about what a game day is like too.
Sure. So I'll talk a little bit about what Veronica was touching on around debriefing. So when you guys do a match and you have an assessor come out, they come to you after the match, or you find them after, and you guys sit down for 20-some minutes and talk about the game. How it works at a FIFA tournament is, actually for the first time ever, we did get to speak to somebody. Generally, you don't speak to anyone after the match. This time we did, probably about 15-20 minutes. And then the next day, when we return back to whatever city, in this case London, they're busily breaking up video clips. And you're anxious to find out whether you were right or wrong. Is that penalty kick call correct? Probably the biggest question is these guys with offside, I hope it's right. And they get the whole referee crew together. They're all sitting out in a room like this with the video clips, and you see the colors of the jersey, and they're about to hit play. You're like, I hope I'm right. And that's the group setting. So it's very stressful, but at the same time, as Veronica said, the point is we don't want everybody to have the same mistake. We're not keeping this information secret group by group by group. We wanted to share it across the teams, and we're in a, you know, that's not true of most tournaments we're at, right? Here in the U.S., you're lucky to get 20 minutes, and then you got to run to your next field. But in this case, we have the opportunity to look at the video, and we look at it with our peers, and usually we're right, luckily. But it can be very, very stressful, and there's always something that you can take from these experiences. You watch the game later on your own. You get a copy of the game usually, and you watch it on your own, but this is the things that they want to make sure that they don't see happen again. You don't want to be the one who repeats that mistake. So that's a little bit about sort of our debriefing and assessing. And then a game day is, well, I don't know how much really different it is, but if you've not done a professional match, essentially the games are usually at night. Not always, but usually they're at night. Unlike in U.S. soccer, we arrive 2 hours in advance. In this country, there it's 90 minutes. But you know why it's only, or excuse me, yeah, 90 minutes. It's only 90 minutes because we do our pregame the night before. You know, I know who my crew is. We get an assignment usually at least 24 hours in advance. We sit down, and the pregame is not a 5-minute pregame. It's not a 15-minute pregame. It takes about an hour. Yeah, it used to be 2, but I figured it out better. Now it's only an hour. But we do, yeah. And I've worked with them enough times, hopefully. We just focus more on the key things. But it happens the night before. We also, when we arrive, we're told what the team colors will be, what the referee jersey will be, which isn't always a good idea. And so a lot of those things are actually organized and worked out in advance. So, you know, it's about making sure that you're as stress-free as possible in the morning. You take the time to yourself. You prepare in the way that works for you. For me, there's a lot of visualization of what could happen. I like to think through the worst-case scenarios. I also listen to some inspirational music, to me. Get our suits on. This is what we wear to the field. We bring our equipment, and then it's game time.
You want to share any of the artists in that inspirational music set?
I feel like you guys planted that, no?
No, but...
I go from pop music to Barbra Streisand. I mean, you know, it depends.
Depends on how stressed you are?
Yes, and
okay.
If I need that level of
enlightenment.
enlightenment.
But so this is an interesting question for both of you. Do you have any special routines or things that you do, or music you listen to, or what do you do to prepare for a game, you know, especially a big game like that?
I also like to sit down and try to visualize some of the things that can happen, and I like to see myself making those decisions. And sometimes even before leaving the hotel room, I'll practice with my flag in front of the mirror. And that just kind of mentally helps me say, this is what I'm going to look like. I'm going to be sharp.
Huh? She's demonstrating.
Yeah. Yes, but I do that too in front of the mirror. We give them the look. Work on that one.
Practice the Kalina look.
That's right.
I do remember, and I forget what World Cup this was, but it even made it to the newspapers. One of the referees was an Italian referee named Sergio Gonella. I don't even remember which. Someone here probably remembers the World Cup. And they showed him in the paper doing that exact same thing. He would do the same thing, practice in front of a mirror before big games like that. So. Interesting.
So it's not just me.
Not
Good.
just you.
Not just
For
me.
me, yeah. In terms of music, I like to listen to music that's really going to pump me up. So I have a range of things, but everything's really fast. And I have a number of different songs that I always have to listen to, and one of them is going to be The Eye of the Tiger, because it's perfect. I mean, we just feel like we're a team, and we're going to go out here and conquer this game. And we're going to give it 100%. So I like that song, and I am in charge of our music for our team. So somebody has to be responsible, and I won't have any country music, so I get chosen. Yeah.
We do a little playlist in the locker room.
Do you now? Yeah, I've seen in a number of the referees in Major League Soccer bring an iPod, an iPod and a little set of speakers. You guys do the same thing?
iPhone. Just as
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How
Give
about
everybody a job. That's
Yeah.
VP's job.
how about you, Marlene? Anything that you do to prepare?
Well, now that she spoiled it, but I listen to country music in my room because apparently these two don't like it. I have other stuff on my regular, if we're not working together, I have other stuff on my playlist as well. But since I know I'll get that stuff from Veronica in the locker room, I do listen to my country music. I do visualizations of decisions that have gone right. I am completely the opposite. I cannot think about anything that might have gone wrong previously because I need to have the positive images so I can have the confidence. And then I just need I sometimes like to, depending on how amped up I am for the game, I like to go for a little walk, just if we're somewhere where I can get outside the hotel. It didn't always work. Where we were in Scotland, it certainly wasn't a great place to go walking. But just like to get outside a little bit, breathe a little fresh air. And then for me, actually, the key preparation, as you'll see in some of the pictures, I think, when I have finished checking the nets, when I make that first sprint, I do a sprint up the line to get in position, and that's my cue that I have to do every game. That's my one thing.
I just wanted to make 2 points. When the visualization, I say, imagine what will go wrong. I have actually a whole list of things that I've created over the years of things, the crazy stuff that could happen, so that I can think about what I would do. So I'm actually visualizing something bad and then my positive reaction to it, so that I am imagining, to these guys' point, success. I think that's really important. But I think about, I had a rabid squirrel come on the field that nobody could get off. This happened to me once. So that one
you hadn't visualized that one in advance, had you?
Chicken. I didn't think of the squirrel. And then the other thing that I do is I realized I had gone to many training sessions, come to events like this where somebody's speaking, maybe mostly instructional, and I would come in, I'd sit down, and I'd take notes, right? And I'd put my notes away, and then I'd never look at them again. So at some point, I realized, boy, that seems foolish. Why don't I consolidate those notes? And I would, after each event, then I have a book, a running book, that shows, sort of the key things that I learned from that session. I also use it to summarize my experience post-event. So it's almost become a journal. And a lot of that journaling is positive things that have happened. Maybe it's the summary of this experience at the Olympics and what were the things that I want to remember and draw on. So actually this book is now 2 books, and I rubber band them together and I take them to all my big tournaments and I flip through it. I don't read it cover to cover. I flip through and think about these individual points that have helped me grow throughout the years. So I do my visualization, I read this book, and then I bring on the music. And that's really the order of things.
Got it. Well, and it sounds like you all do positive visualizations. Maybe there's some tough circumstances you have to deal with, but then how you deal with it in a positive way, which has definitely been shown to increase effectiveness and good performance. Just thinking about everything, you need to have a very short memory for any mistakes, and convert that into something positive,
Like
right?
in the second.
Right, yeah, and in the game too, right?